The snow was still falling when I understood that the bravest creature in my kingdom had no wolf in her at all. I had ridden the hollow 100 times. It is the throat of the north, a cut of gray rock and black pine where the Greywater Road climbs into Ashfell land, and where, if a thing wishes to kill you unseen, it waits. I knew this. My father died knowing this. So I rode it with my hackles up and my brother close, and I told myself the cold in my chest was only the cold. Osric rode ahead of me, laughing at something one of the outriders had said. He was 23 and the only blood I had left in the world, and he laughed the way our mother had, with his whole face, and I had spent 9 years since our father's death trying to keep that laugh alive, without letting him see how hard I worked at it. He was my heir. He was my brother. In the whole gray width of my kingdom, he was the one thing I could not lose and go on being a king rather than only a wolf with a crown. The brand came out of the pines, the way rot comes out of wood all at once, and from inside the thing you trusted. I heard the bows before I saw the men, that flat, wet snap of horn under cold. My wolf came up under my skin roaring, and I threw myself sideways off the road, and I shouted my brother's name into the snow, and it was already too late, because the first flight was not aimed at me. It was aimed at him. 3 shafts, 4, cutting the falling snow into lines, and Osric turning, too slow, his laugh still half on his mouth, no time in the world to lift a shield or a hand or a prayer. And then a woman was there. She came from the low stone shape of the way station at the road's edge, the little house that kept fire and broth for travelers, that the pack suffered to stand on our land because it was useful, and because the human who kept it asked nothing of us and never came up to the hold. I knew her by sight the way you know a fence post. Elin, a human. No pack, no wolf, no claws, no name that mattered to us. She kept the fire and she doctored the frostbitten, and she was, in every way my people measured, worth nothing. She did not run from the arrows. Every wolf on that road, every one of my trained warriors was already moving, but moving is not the same as choosing. And in the half-breath before the shafts struck my brother, she was the only creature there who chose to move the wrong way, toward him, into it. She hit Osric with her whole small weight and turned her back to the pines, and she took what was meant for him across her own body, and I heard the sound the arrows made going into her, which is a sound I will not describe to you because I still cannot say it without my hands closing. She fell, and in the instant she fell, something in me that had been sealed my whole life tore open. I have no better word for it than a tether, as though a cord I had never known was strung had gone suddenly, unbearably taut, running from somewhere behind my ribs out across the trampled snow to the woman folding down at my brother's feet. I felt her. I felt her heartbeat as if it were sounding inside my own chest, quick and frightened and fierce, and then I felt it stagger, and when it staggered the ground moved under me, and I understood, not with my mind which understood nothing, but with the oldest animal part of me, that if that heartbeat stopped, I would not survive the stopping. I did not think. I have led men in war, and I did not think at all. I crossed that road through the second flight of arrows without feeling them, and there were men of the brand coming down out of the pines to finish us, and I killed them. I want to be honest with you about the king I was in that moment, because it matters to the man I became after. I killed them the way winter kills, without heat and without pause, and I have never regretted a death less. My warriors closed around us. The pines emptied of the living. And through all of it, that thread ran taut and thinning out of my chest to her, and I let the fighting end where it ended, and I went down into the red snow on my knees beside a human woman I had never once spoken to, and I turned her over as gently as if she were made of the first ice of the year. Her eyes were open, brown and clear, and this is the thing that unmade me not afraid, wondering. She looked up at me as though I were the strange thing, as though a wolf king kneeling in the snow with his hands shaking were the sight worth marveling at, and not she, not the arrows in her, not the impossible thing she had just done. Your brother, she said, her voice was thin. Is he? He is safe. My own voice did not sound like mine. You saved him, be still, do not. Good, she said, as though that settled a small accounting. And her eyes went past me to the falling snow, and the tether in my chest gave a long, slow pull toward the dark, and I heard myself make a sound no king should make in front of his men. Osric was on his knees beside me, whole, untouched, weeping, my brother who I had spent 9 years protecting, saved by a woman with no wolf in her. Torrin, he said. Torrin, she came out of nowhere, why would she? I had no answer. I have thought about it every day since, and I still have only the one, and it took me the whole of this story to learn it. But then, in the snow, I had nothing. I gathered her up against me. She weighed nothing, which was obscene, that so small a thing had chosen to stand between my brother and death. And I felt the thread that bound us to her fraying strand by strand. And I did the only thing left to a man who has just discovered he possesses a thing he cannot bear to lose in the same moment he begins to lose it. I ran up the Greywater Road toward the hold with her heartbeat in my chest going out like a lamp in wind, and I remember nothing of that run except that I could not go fast enough, and that some part of me, that new-woken part, that tether, was reaching down the cord to her and giving, pouring, some strength I did not know a man could pour, out of me and into her, blind and desperate, the way you would breathe your own breath into a drowned child. I did not know I could do it. I did not know what it was. I only knew that each time her heart stumbled I shoved everything I was down the thread and it steadied, and that this was costing me something I could not see and would not have counted if it cost me all I had. The gates of Stonewend opened for their king carrying a bleeding human in his arms, and the whole hold went silent to see it. I laid her on my own bed. I did not decide to. There was no other bed in the world as far as I was concerned, and I sent for Sina. Sina had pulled my father's teeth when he was old and set my arm when I was a boy and buried more of Ashfell than any of us liked to think on. She was older than the hold's oldest stone and afraid of nothing, and when she came into that room and saw what lay on my bed, her face did a thing I had never seen it do. It fell. Torrin, she only ever used my name, never my title. She'd earned that. This is a human girl. I know what she is. No, she was already cutting cloth away from the wounds, already reaching for what she carried, but her voice had gone flat and gentle in the way of someone laying out a hard truth for a grieving man. You do not. A wolf takes this in lives because a wolf knits itself. This her hands, and I made myself look at what her hands found, this she cannot knit. She has no beast to burn the fever off, no fast blood. She is a candle, boy, and someone has knocked her over. She looked up at me, and there was pity in it, which from Sina was terrible. I will do everything there is, but you are the Alpha King, and I will not lie to you in your own house. Humans do not walk away from this. And here is where I might have broken, except that the tether in my chest chose that moment to make me understand it. Because I could still feel her, faint, frightened, fighting, but there, running out of me and into her, that giving I could not name. And I looked down at the woman on my bed, this human girl whose name I had known the way you know a fence post, and the whole shape of the thing arrived in me at once, the way the sun arrives over a ridge, all of it blinding and then simply true. The mate bond, the thing my mother had promised me as a child, and I had stopped believing in somewhere in the long gray years of being king. The one soul in the turning world made to answer yours, that most wolves never find, that I had told myself I did not need and did not want because wanting it and not having it had begun to hollow me. That bond does not come to a man and a human. It cannot. Everyone knows it cannot. A wolf's mate is a wolf. The bond is a wolf's thing. There has never in all the tellings been a Luna without a beast of her own. And yet I had felt her heartbeat as my own across 40 feet of snow. And yet I was, in this moment, breathing my life down a cord into a body that had no wolf in it to receive it, and it was receiving it. The impossible thing was simply, quietly happening in defiance of everything my people knew, on my own bed, in my own hands. "Sina," I said. "It is her." The old healer went very still. She did not ask what I meant. She had midwifed the whole grief and joy of Ashfell for 60 years, and she knew the sound of a man saying the one word that turns his life over. She looked at me, and she looked at the girl, and I watched her weigh a lifetime of certain knowledge against the thing she saw in my face, and because she was wise, and because she loved me, and because in the end a healer serves the living body in front of her and not the rule in the book, she chose to believe me. "Then you hold her," Sina said, low and fierce, bending back to her work. "Whatever it is you are doing, boy, I can smell it on you. You're spending yourself like a fool. You hold her here. I will do the flesh. You do the rest. And we will find out together whether the old certainties know everything after all." So I held her. I do not know how to make you feel the nights that followed, so I will simply tell you what they were. I sat on the floor beside my own bed with a human woman's cold hand in both of mine, and I poured myself down the thread between us until I could not tell where I ended. And each time her heart faltered, I gave more. And when Sina's tea and Sina's poultices had done all that flesh could do, the rest was only that, a wolf king on the floor, feeding his life by the spoonful into a candle someone had tried to put out, refusing to let it go dark. Osric would not leave the doorway. My brother, whole because of her, kept the vigil with me, and somewhere in the second night he began to talk to her, quietly, the way you talk to someone you are afraid cannot hear you and cannot bear the thought that they can't. He told her his name. He told her he was sorry he had been laughing, that he would never in his life laugh at nothing again without thinking of her. He told her she had to wake up because he had been saved and did not yet know how to carry it, and that she was the only one who could teach him. And the hold kept vigil too. This is the part I did not expect. These were my people, and my people had suffered the human at the way station the way you suffer weather, and now they came. Not because I commanded it. I commanded nothing in those days but her heart to keep beating. They came on their own, the warriors who had seen her turn the wrong way into the arrows, and the old ones and the young. They left things at the door of my chamber, a wolf fur, a jar of honey, a carved thing, a green branch, the small useless offerings that a people make when they do not know what to do with a debt too big to pay. A hunter named Rain, who I knew for a hard man, stood in my doorway on the third night with his cap in his 2 hands and could not speak, and when he found his voice he said only, "She pulled my boy out of the gray water in the spring flood, my lord. 2 years passed, never came up to the hold to be thanked. I never," and then he could not go on, and he put his cap back on and went away into the dark, and I understood that I was learning about this woman from her debtors, one by one, in the worst days of both our lives. Because it was not only my brother. That was the thing that came clear across those long nights, told to me in pieces by half the hold. Elin had been keeping that road for 6 years, not keeping the way station, keeping the road, pulling drowning children from the flood, sitting up with frostbitten traders no wolf would trouble with, guiding lost travelers off the hollow in whiteout by a lamp in her window. A human woman alone at the throat of a wolf kingdom, quietly saving the lives of a people who could not be bothered to learn her name, and never once climbing the hill to ask for so much as a word of thanks. My people had walked past her for 6 years the way I had, and she had spent those 6 years being, without any of us noticing, the bravest and best thing on the whole gray width of my land. I sat on my floor with her hand in mine, and I was ashamed as I have never been ashamed. A king is meant to know his own. I had not known her at all. On the 4th night, near the hour when the dark is thinnest and coldest, and most souls that mean to go, her heart stopped. I felt the thread snap taut and then simply stop pulling, and the silence where her heartbeat had been was the loudest thing I have ever heard. Sina was on her in an instant, her old hands hard on that small chest, and Osric was shouting, and I did the only thing I knew, the thing I had been doing for 4 nights, and I stopped holding anything back. Whatever I had been spending by the spoonful I gave now by the cask, all of it, everything I was, my strength and my years and my wolf and my crown and whatever a soul is made of. I shoved it all down the dead cord toward her, and I said her name, the first time I had ever said her name. And I said it not as a king commanding, but as a man begging. Elin. Elin, come back to me. I have only just found you, come back. And the thread caught. I felt it catch the way you feel a rope catch a falling man, a jolt that went through my whole body and nearly took me down with it. And on the bed, under Sina's hands, a human woman dragged in one long, shuddering, furious breath, and her heart lurched and lurched again, and then unbelievably went on. Sina sat back on her heels with tears running down all the deep old lines of her face, and she looked at me across the bed, and she said, in a voice full of wonder and something close to fear, 60 years I have doctored this hold, Torin, and I have never seen the like. The old certainties are wrong. She is yours. The bond took a human. God help us all. The bond took a human, and it will not let her go. Elin did not wake that night, but she lived. Her heart kept its small, stubborn time, and the fever crested and broke, and Sina's poultices found clean flesh beneath them at last, and the thread between us settled from a scream into a low, steady hum I would carry in my chest for the rest of my life. I slept, finally, on the floor by the bed with her hand in mine, and I dreamed of nothing, and it was the first dreamless sleep I had had since my father died. She woke on the 6th day. I was there. I had barely not been there in 6 days, so I was there, and I felt her wake down the thread before her eyes opened, a small rising, like a swimmer coming up. And then her eyes came open, brown and clear, and found the ceiling, and then found me, kneeling by the bed where I had knelt so long the stone had learned the shape of me. For a long moment she only looked at me. Then she said, hoarse and wondering and God help me, apologetic, I've bled on your bed. I laughed. I had not laughed in a year, and it came out of me broken and enormous, half a sob, and I pressed her small hand to my mouth, and I could not speak, and my terrible dignity as Alpha King of Ashfell was entirely gone, and I did not care. I did not care at all. Your brother, she said when I could not, is he? You asked me that in the snow. My voice cracked. He is safe. He has been in that doorway for 6 days. He learned your name. The whole hold learned your name, Elin. I learned your name. I had to stop. I made myself go on because she deserved the truth from me plainly, all of it. I did not know it before. I am ashamed that I did not know it. You have been saving my people for 6 years, and I walked past you like a stone in the road. And then you gave your life for my brother without a breath of hesitation. A human woman with nothing, for a pack that gave you nothing. And I want to understand why, because I cannot. And it is the only thing I have wanted to understand in 6 days. She was quiet a while. Osric had come to the doorway. He did not come in. He stood with his hand over his mouth and let his king have this. There isn't a why the size you want it to be, Elin said at last slowly, as though she had never had to say any of this aloud and was finding the shapes of the words for the first time. I lost my own a long time ago, all of them in one winter, sickness. I was the only one it left, and when everyone you have is gone, you find out that a person is mostly the space they made in other people's lives, and mine was empty all of a sudden, this shape with nothing left to fill it. She turned her hand in mine, not pulling away, just feeling that it was held. So I came to the loneliest road I could find, and I made myself useful to whoever passed, not to be thanked. I didn't want thanks. I wanted the space to not be empty. Every traveler I kept warm, every child I pulled out of the water that was a little of the shape filled back in. That's all it ever was. I wasn't brave. I just couldn't stand by a road and watch a person die and keep on being someone who let it happen. She looked up at me. Your brother was laughing. He had the whole rest of his laughing to do. I wasn't going to be the space where I let that end. I have led warriors who broke enemy shield walls, and I have never in my life heard courage described so plainly by someone who did not believe she had any. Elin, I said, I have to tell you a thing, and it is a large thing, and you have just come back from the dead, so I will say it once and gently, and you may take all the time in the world with it." She waited. That steadiness of hers, I would come to know it as the truest thing about her, steadier than any wolf I had ever commanded. There is a bond among my kind, a fated thing, one soul made to answer another. Most of us never find it. I stopped believing I would, and I told myself I did not care, and I was lying. I held her hand, and I made myself hold her eyes. When you fell in the snow, I felt it wake. I have felt your heart in my chest for 6 days. When it stopped 4 nights ago, I found I could give you mine down the bond, and it caught you and it brought you back. Sina says it has never happened between a wolf and a human in all the tellings. She says it happened anyway. She says the bond took you and will not let you go. I drew a breath that shook. I am telling you this not to bind you to anything. You owe me nothing. If anything, the debt runs entirely the other way and always will. I am telling you because you nearly died in a room full of my people's silence, and I will not have you also kept in the dark. You are my mate, Alin, the one the world made to answer me, a human woman with no wolf in her, who outbraved every wolf I have. And whatever you choose to do with that, stay, go, be my Luna, be only my friend, be gone from here entirely with my whole treasury at your back to make whatever life you wish. You will choose it, freely. I will not put one feather's weight on you that you do not lift yourself. But you asked me why, and the truth is I have wanted to understand you since the moment you turned the wrong way into those arrows, and I think I will spend the rest of my life at it, and I would count that the best life a man could have. The room was very quiet. The whole hold, I think, was very quiet. Alin looked at me for a long time, and then she did a thing I did not expect, which she would go on doing for all our years, which is that she saw straight past the enormous frightening size of the thing to the small human center of it. "You've been kneeling on that stone for 6 days," she said. "Your knees must be ruined." And she moved her hand in mine, weak, careful, and made a space on the edge of the bed, a plain, small human invitation, and said, "Sit down, Torin. Before you fall down, kings shouldn't kneel that long." And I sat. I will not draw out for you the weeks of her healing, except to say they were the best weeks of my life, and I had not known a life could hold weeks like them. She grew strong slowly, in the human way, without a beast to hurry it, and I learned the pace of a human's mending and found I loved it, the slowness of it, the way strength you cannot take for granted is a strength you notice arriving. She learned the hold, and the hold, which had walked past her for 6 years, could not now do enough for her. Rain the hunter brought his boy up the hill at last, the one she'd pulled from the flood, a shy child who stood at the foot of her bed twisting his cap exactly as his father had, and could not say what he'd come to say, and Alin, of course, filled the silence for him, asked him about the fishing, sent him off grinning, and never once let him feel the weight of the debt. That was her everywhere. She carried other people's debts so lightly they forgot they owed her, and only later, at night, did they lie awake understanding what she had done for them. Osric was hers entirely. My brother had spent his laugh so carelessly all his life, and now he had been shown its cost, and he did not become grim. She would not let him become grim. She said the world had enough grim men in it, and one more would be a waste of a good laugh. But he became something better than grim, something with a floor under it. He would sit with her for hours. He called her sister before I ever called her mate aloud, and the day I heard him do it I had to go and stand in the cold yard a while. There were those who could not swallow it. I will be honest with you. A story that pretends everyone bowed at once is a lie, and Alin hated a lie. There were wolves of Ashfell who could not stomach a human Luna, who muttered that a mate without a wolf was no mate, that the bond had made a mistake, that a woman who could not shift could not stand at the head of the pack. An old certainty does not die because one candle refused to go out, and I could have crushed the muttering with a word. I am the Alpha King. My word is not a small thing, but Alin asked me not to. Let them come to it or not come to it on their own, she said. You can make a pack bow with a word. You can't make them mean it. I don't want to be Luna over people who are afraid of you. If I'm going to be anything to these people, let it be because they chose it, the way I chose that road. A thing given freely is the only thing worth having. You taught me that yourself, 6 days after you nearly lost me. So I let them come to it or not. And they came to it, most of them in the end, and not by my word but by hers. One saved child in one warm night and one carried debt at a time, exactly the way she had won me. The ones who could not come to it grew quiet and then grew few. And on a bright hard morning at the turn of the year, the pack of Ashfell gathered in the yard of Stonewind, and it was not I who named her Luna. I would not do it that way. It would have been my word again, my weight, the one thing I had sworn never to lay on her. It was Rain the hunter who stepped out first, with his boy's hand in his, and knelt a hard man, kneeling in the snow to a human, and said, "My lord, I'll follow her, not because you say. Because she pulled my son out of the water and never asked me to know her name. If that's not a Luna, I don't know what one is." And then it was the old woman whose frostbite she'd saved. And then it was 3 warriors from the hollow who had seen her turn into the arrows. And then it was Osric, my brother, my heir, kneeling to the sister who'd bought his life. And then it was all of them, the whole hold going down into the bright snow, not at my command, at their own choosing, to a woman with no wolf who had outloved every wolf among them. I looked at Alin. She was not weeping, she was too steady for that, but her hand was tight in mine. "You don't have to," I said low only to her. "Even now, especially now, you can still choose the treasury and the open road." I meant every word of it, and I always will. "I know you did," she said. "That's why I'm staying." And she looked out at my kneeling people, her people now, and she said the truest thing anyone has ever said in the yard of Stonewind. "I came to that road to fill an empty shape. I never thought the shape would turn out to be this big." Then she squeezed my hand and stepped forward to lift her people up off their knees, because she could not bear for anyone to kneel to her any longer than they had to. And I understood that I was watching the North change its oldest mind about what a Luna was, and that it was changing it gladly. We were wed in the old way, and I will keep the private things private, as a king should and a husband must, save to tell you that the bond between us settled that night into something I have no grander word for than home. A low, steady hum in the chest, hers to mine and mine to hers, that I have carried every day since and will carry to the end, and that on the coldest nights of the North is the warmest thing I own. She never grew a wolf. The old certainties were wrong about the bond, but they were right about that. She was human all her life, and I would not have changed one hair of her if I could. She aged as humans age, in that slow noticing way, and I loved every year it took, because a strength you cannot take for granted is a strength you never stop being grateful for, and she taught me that too. We had children in time, and some carried the wolf and one did not, and Alin loved the wolfless one no differently and no less, and taught all of them the thing she had taught the whole North, that the size of a soul is not measured by the size of the beast in it, and that the bravest thing in the world is usually the quietest, and usually thinks itself no hero at all. She is gone now in the fullness of her human years, and I am old, and the hold is Osric's son's, and I sit by the fire and tell this to whoever will hear it, because I promised her I would not let it become the kind of grand shining thing that stops being true. She would not stand for that. So I keep it plain, the way she kept everything plain. I will tell you only how it ends, and then I am done. The first watch of every night at Stonewind is stood at the gate of the hollow, at the throat of the North, where the arrows came. It has been stood there every single night for all these years, and it will be stood there long after I am Ash. It is the most honored post in Ashfell. Young warriors compete for it. Grown wolves speak of the night they first held it the way other men speak of their first battle. And every one of them, before they take up the post, is told the same thing in the same words, by the one they relieve, old words now, worn smooth, the closest thing my hard gray people have to a prayer. Turn the right way. She turned the wrong way once, so that we would always have someone left to turn the right one. Stand your watch as if a human girl with nothing were braver than you, because she was. And every night at the throat of my kingdom, a wolf stands in the snow in the name of a woman who had no wolf at all. And I, an old man by a fire, feel the low hum of her still in my chest, quiet and steady and unbroken, and I am not empty. She filled the shape. It turned out to be this big.